Yeah. All right. What's wrong? Oh,
Dude, look at
was
this.
that?
Hold on. I
All
got
right.
like a case
Yeah.
of beer just chilling in my drawer.
All right, I'm recording.
Oh.
What's good, dude? We're
Okay.
back with episode 2 of the Triple Eight podcast. Here today, I got my guy Donovan from Kansas. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. What about you? We haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah, I had a lot going on, then I didn't, and now I'm all right. So, all right, we're gonna start pretty quick here, I think, because one of the things that really interests me is the fact that you ended high school in COVID, and I want you to kind of like tell me what the transition was like. Were your teachers like competent, shit like that? What's
Okay, so clearly, I mean, it sucked on everyone's part. I mean, for me, I missed out on prom. I missed out on a lot of senior projects. I mean, a lot of, me, really big into architecture and stuff. Um, None of my projects that I finished, my major project that I had, and I was about 5% away from finishing, never got finished. I never received any of those projects, so they're all still sitting on my account, on my profile, in my USB at school, and that kind of bums me out. And then Woods, I also never received any of those projects that I finished because they're still sitting in school. And I mean, that was the biggest bummer. And I mean, of course, the prom, whatever, and graduation, it was piss poor.
really, they didn't give you
Um,
your shit? Like, I guess I didn't get mine
no,
when I moved, but I didn't exactly like. I don't know.
yeah,
Huh?
I didn't get any of that. And the teachers were ill prepared. The school was ill prepared. I mean, they have every right to be, because who knows, there's going to be a pandemic in within 2 months. And basically, instead of Zoom, our school district, because you were in the same school district as me before you're a grade
Yeah, I
above me.
was at KU when this happened, dude. No, I
Well,
had just dropped out actually, but
oh, really? But
yeah,
I mean, you went to Shawnee Mission East, and I go to Shawnee Mission Northwest, so we were in the
yeah.
same school district. But they were ill prepared completely, so they used this website. Uh, they used this website called WebEx, which we use Zoom. I mean, we're on Zoom right now, but WebEx just could not hold anybody on their website, and I only used it about 3 times when I was going through school, and basically it crashed all 3 times. So never really used it. And the school district said that your grades wouldn't decline, but they could go up, but they couldn't go down. So I completely just didn't do anything in school.
Right. And
Um,
so, do you think that was a good solution? Like that
what?
the
Not
school
doing
came up with?
anything?
Yeah, no. Like
Oh,
not on your
no,
part,
it
but
was
the school's
horrible.
like allowing you to just like do nothing and like have your grades not
No,
go down.
it was awful because you're not getting the education you need. But like the thing for me is, I mean, it didn't really matter for like me, because the only non hands-on class, well, non-skilled area class that I had was either English and math. All my other classes were your skilled classes, so like architecture or woods or stuff like that. And you can't really do those online. And so, I mean, if I stopped doing those, then it wouldn't really matter. But
So
with
you
English stuff, I needed to.
can't do it online for the technical classes. Why? How does that work with you now?
What do you mean? Oh,
Because
because
as a civil engineering major, right?
Well, I'm going into civil construction management.
Right. Okay. So
So,
how does it affect your like classes now? Are the classes that you're in now related to the field,
uh,
or the high school class is just not adaptable?
so my classes aren't. It actually didn't turn out that bad for JCC. So a lot of your first entry level construction classes, they are pretty compatible with online. It wasn't. It's a lot of just getting the terminology, and it's it's more just like reading plans, which I have somewhere around here. I mean, our all our plans are in one book, so I have over like 200 plans folded up in here. And so, I mean, it didn't really affect the JCC aspect of it. And it's pretty simple. And I think I'm learning better for the actual construction classes through online than I would in person. But I think that's just more of an opinion.
Right. Because you hear a lot of people who say that, and I was literally last time Zach said that his learning was definitely worse because it was online. And what he
Yeah.
cited was, and what I think a lot of people would cite, are the social aspects and the less one-on-one teacher time and the less in-person teacher time where you can actually like talk and gain rapport with the teacher. What do you think about that aspect
Okay.
of it?
So the one-on-one with my teachers, my classes are pretty small. I only have like 18 kids in each class, which for a college class, that's fairly small. And the one-on-one has been really well, I would say, um,
Well, are you
especially
online or in person?
online. I'm all
Okay.
online. But the one-on-one for being online is very good for at least my construction teachers. And honestly, even my political science teacher, she's done a really, really good job at it too. They've set up meetings through this website called Genius, um, and basically, it was like an hour long from each teacher, and we just went over everything, and you just talked about your feelings about the class and all this, and you can do it throughout the whole semester, and it was really helpful. I mean, I was doing awful in one of my construction classes, and it's just because I didn't know what he wanted or anything when there was things were due, or because they all had different due dates, but he said some things weren't due then when they said they were. But I really, I
Yeah, I
really
think
got.
there is like definitely a stumbling that most people go through when you're transitioning to mainly online classes because first of all, if you're in college or junior college like JCCC is, you can your professors won't really necessarily tell you the due dates, though that's for you to look in the syllabus and that's for you to do on your own
Yeah.
and organize on your own. And the second thing is the syllabus is online, right? You're no longer handed a paper copy to make sure every student
Yeah.
got one, right? And so you both have to navigate to the syllabus and you have to navigate to each assignment instead of just turning it in person like you might for a regular class or an in-person class. Lost my point, but we can move on to the next question.
Okay.
um all right, let's talk about jobs and working, because you said that you've got a
Uh,
job. I know in COVID, a lot of places fired a lot of people, and a lot of places when they reopened, um, what is it? They reopened with shorter hours, and so that's less shifts that less people can work. So how do you manage to uh, be in the workforce right now?
well, as you may know, I work at a golf course, and COVID actually spiked all golf courses around the U.S. almost honestly. Um, The thing is, everyone was locked inside. They needed to find something to do. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of first time customers coming in these last few months. And it just spiked our, I mean, you can't even get a tea time on the weekend and 3 days in advance when last year you could get a tea time a, a day in advance on a weekend and or even on that day. It's people just needed something to do, so they went out and golfed, and it's something everyone is trying to do at least, and because everyone can now, it's never been closed. I gained more hours. I've got a raise in the past 2 months, and because I've been working my ass off, and um I only we only went out for a week. It was like right at the start of all the COVID. They shut us down for a week because that was right when everyone was shut down though. So no one knew what they were going to do. The next week we opened up. We started testing the waters with some things, and I mean now we're just busier than ever, and it's not going to slow down for the next 2 months, even through winter. I think.
Okay, so you're arguing that there was actually like in your, at least in your field of experience, a job like spike,
Yeah.
right? And then
Oh.
you
It. We
probably
went up.
hired more people, right? Because not only were you getting more customers, but there are now more mandates from like the CDC and things like that. Were there more jobs that were created because of that?
Yeah. So here, I'll give you an example. So, um, we have to meet a certain number in sales every year in order to keep our golf course open since it's opened by the state. And so we met that number in July alone. And usually it takes us about 6 months to meet that number. But
Hmm.
in July alone, we met that number. And um,
But I'm kind of
um,
talking about hiring.
yes, so I was about it. I was right about to go into that. So our issue through this is we were ill prepared. We were ill prepared because on normal golf course, you have two people in the pro shop and you have a couple people watching the golf course. We were since we've been slammed, we've hired probably since I've been there. We opened up a new job. We opened up cart boys because we don't have cart boys. We have Marshall who they just stroll around the golf course, be a cart boy, but we can't do that because we have too many people. So we've done that. We also have we've added another range boy, so we have three more people a day than we did before all this.
That's good.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's confidence in the industry that'll continue. I think recreational industries really did kind of benefit from COVID. I regret not investing in like Uber Eats or
Yeah. Okay.
I did kind of invest in Netflix and I gained some money off it, but I think it's kind of topped out right now.
Yeah, I
Um,
would assume.
so here's the next one. Uh, Honestly, I was kind of reaching for questions, but I think it's really interesting. A lot of people kind of have been like, and it's been talked on talk shows like, oh, people will go out in their sweatpants and sweatshirts, and they don't really care about dressing up for uh, going out anymore because they're not going out to fancy places. And so it's like part of that is also like hygiene. Like a lot of people might stop paying attention to their hygiene because of it. Has COVID affected like how you like did you like shower like more consistently before, like brush your teeth, or is it like do days kind of more slip away? Or have
Um,
you been, yeah.
okay, I know what you're getting at here. So for me, showering and stuff's been about the same. I mean, I wake up, shower, go to work, and then after I work out at night, shower. So that was typical. I mean, at work, we're required to wash our hands more, use hand sanitizer as is recommended. So, I mean, that aspect, yes, I'm washing my hands so much. It's dry as can be, and my hands smell like hand sanitizer 24/7 at work. Now at home, I'm not as worried clearly because it's just our family coming in and out. But when I go to the grocery store, I kind of lack on the hand sanitizer and stuff. But I, I, I personally, I live in Bonner now, so if someone has it at my store, that's very rare because the population of Bonner is very, very low.
All right. This haven't really changed. We're gonna make a hard turn. Um, you quit smoking and also marijuana. Let's
Yes.
talk about it.
Uh,
So let's talk about the nicotine first because that's the one that I personally, what is it?
Struggle.
I can understand people who do. It's just like, you know, what happened? Like what spurred it?
Um, it's kind of like sounds cheesy, and you can call me a simp if you want, but um, my girlfriend. Do you know Stella? I don't know. She was 2 grades below you. Um,
For the
she
last
goes to
girl,
East.
the last time I saw one of your girlfriends in person, she fucking cried because I was there.
I'm talking about Stella goes to Shawnee Mission East though.
Okay.
So um, I mean we've been dating for almost a year now, but which is as long as I've quit. So she's got a college scholarship for soccer, and she it's like it's the number one NAIA school for women's soccer and men's soccer. So at the beginning of all this, she was kind of dwindling into my addiction, and she started doing it again because of me. So we kind of just agreed that if we both quit, we both quit, and that's gonna be that.
All
And it's
right. What about
simple
weed?
as that. I mean, the thing with weed is we even her, she kind of is like, all right, when we do it, we do it, but I just haven't had the fascination. She hasn't had the fascination. It's not something we're totally against at all, because honestly, for me, I provoke legalization of marijuana, and I'm all for it. So weed is totally different, but nicotine, I don't think you need it. I think, as of me right now, I feel 100 times better than I did before. I can actually run a mile without wanting to die, and it almost changed like that too. Breathing habits. I had chest pains constantly when I was doing nicotine, and now it's just I feel open. I feel open, like I can breathe.
Hmm. All right. Um. So on that, what is it? Trump. One of the things he did was he actually banned nicotine. Was it vapes for people, and was it vape cigarettes and all nicotine products
Any tobacco.
for all people under the age of 21? And I think Biden probably has the same stance. And was it both of them have presented anti uh, marijuana legalization, and they had a debate tonight in which both of them acted kind of like children. So I have an idea I've been kind of playing with for a while, and it is that people who are 70 years old should not be the only contenders to be president, right? Under any circumstance,
Yeah,
should the average, the under any circumstance, should these people who have such histories of, what is it, being like ignorant, and people who have such like histories of like fucking being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, fucking weird shit with kids. Like, how are these people where they are? Like, what do you think? Why do you think that these are the people that we prop up?
Well, to that response, I think money. It's simple as that. Money gets you where you're at. And you may go, well, politicians don't have a lot of money. It's completely false. You need a lot of money to be a politician, and any level of any level of political aspect. If you're a mayor, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to get to be of power. So people with power have lots of money, and you may not realize it, but they do. They have plenty of it. Plenty of it.
Do you think that a lot of people see that, or do you think that it's not self-evident to everybody?
Of course, it's not self-evident to everyone. Everyone, I mean, you can tell someone the sky is gray, and it could be completely gray, but they'll argue against it.
How many people? Let me ask a different question. I wasn't going anymore with that one.
Here, I'll give you a question real quick. Um, do you think everyone should vote?
No,
Okay, and
not
why?
everyone should vote.
Yeah,
Um,
why do you think?
because some people kill other people, and
Well,
some
those
people rape
people.
other people, and those people honestly are less than human and shouldn't be given the same rights as actual people.
Do you think that's the only things, or do you think being a criminal should be the only thing that stops you from voting? Because if you have a criminal record, you can't vote already. Well,
No, if you have
most,
if you have a felony,
yeah,
and
felony.
if you
No,
do,
most
and
felony.
it's a hell. You have to like wait five. At least in the state of Florida, I've gone over it. In the state of Florida, I
Yeah,
think you have to wait like 5 years, and then you can
yeah.
apply. And there's like lawyer fees and shit like that, and you have
Oh
to
yeah.
pay for tests and shit. And it's a
Like,
terrible process. But I don't think people who have taken other people's lives on purpose, or people who have raped other people in any way, especially children.
okay. See, this is my thought on it. I mean, I agree with those people. Yeah, they're less than human, and they shouldn't have the right to vote. But the right to vote it's very complicated. I mean, everyone who is eligible has the right to vote. Now, not everyone is educated enough, in my opinion, to vote. There's many people who don't even know who's on the ballot. There's many people who know no policies on either side of the parties. There's many people who only look at policies on their side of the party and may not agree with all of them, but they will still vote for their side of the party just because it is their side of the party. Those people, in my opinion, shouldn't vote. I think you should be educated on both sides of the party, and I think you should make an educated guess on who you should vote for.
Okay, so it's an interesting why. So you don't think everybody? Why do you think that not everybody educates themselves? Why do you think? And do you think it should be the the? Do you think it should be on the state to educate people about what's going on, or do you think it should be a self-education thing?
I mean, it's the thing is, you can't tell everyone. I mean, you can't tell people, no, you can't vote because you're stupid. I mean, you can't do that because then you're restricting their freedom of voting. But I don't know. I feel like it's up to the everyday person to educate themselves. Now, do they? No. Everyone has their freedom of mind. And I think what really stops people from educating themselves on the opposite party is the fact that it's the opposite party. They don't want to hear anything from the opposite party. Opinions are very heavily based today. So if you hear someone's a Democrat in a Republican convention, oh, I hate that person. Now, if you hear the opposite, oh, I hate that person. It's
Right, but do you think it's the burden of the state to educate people about what's going on within the government, within the federal government? Do you think it
to an
is
extent.
to an extent? Like, do you think that every decision should be as publicized as presidential candidates and senator candidates, right? Where
Yeah.
a lot of things, like a lot of bills, they don't have information that goes out to the public. It's all available for sure, but a lot of people won't go out of their way to read it.
Because there's a lot.
So
There's a lot of bills.
do you think the government should take any burden in that, in educating the people? Because it already takes a burden in educating the people through public schools, right? But
Yeah.
when you're in government class, they teach you there's two parties. There's two major parties because that's the way it's been for 50 years, or not even 50, like fucking half of as long as we've been a nation,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's always been two-party from anti-federalists, federalists. It's always been a two-party structure.
And so they tell about, and so it's obviously ingrained in the system that it's two parties, but that's a problem, right? The government doesn't educate us on what an ideal setting looks like, right? It doesn't educate us on where we can improve as citizens. It doesn't educate us on, like, if we are to go into civil service, right? It doesn't prepare us for that route at all. It adequately prepares us to go into a college level math class. So you might be able to go do something with math or reading or social studies or science, but not government. The thing that is literally controlling all of our lives. I don't know. That was a rant, but it really is kind of just. What do you think about that? What do you think? Do you think the government has a role in educating us in this
Yes,
incredibly important aspect of life?
I believe a lot of the fears of the government educating or playing a role in educating is the fact that anything political, anything political is always going to be two sides. And just like in my political science class, I went out of my way to take political science because I want to learn about policies and all this crap and everything. But in my class, my teacher is super libertarian, so pretty neutral. Um, she could say something, and next thing you know, someone's arguing. I think that's the biggest key issue with a government trying to teach you something is there's always going to be an opposition and people may not want to hear it. And or vice versa, the person teaching may be of opposite party and you may not want to hear it because you think they're being one-sided.
Well, I disagree. I think that right now, because we have decentralized education, each like county could make a representation of government, like what it is within their area in each school. You know, I mean, I see what you're saying in that it'd be difficult. I think is what I'm picking up. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Can I ask you another question? It's
Yeah.
kind of random. What's your podcast 888 meaning? Like, what's the?
Triple eight. Oh, I what is it? Um, what is it? The eights in what is it? Oriental cultures. I think mainly Chinese. Three of a kind is
Is that your
lucky.
tattoo as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to do something with it, and so it's like this is my brand, and so I put it on the thing. I'm gonna copyright it. I'm gonna go.
You're gonna
I'm gonna do the paperwork to copyright it. It's gonna be sick.
get you're like
um,
you're like you're like juice box instead of 999 it's 888.
yeah. I just thought of a question, and I want to talk to you about this. When I was at, when I was in high school, my junior year, halfway through the semester, this kid came in, and he sat in the desk right next to me. But as he sat, he like went ragdoll, and the entire desk fucking fell over. Right.
Yeah.
Prior to that, apparently he had been on the ground in the bathroom, like dying because he had drank too much and taken like Adderall or something.
Oh no.
How do you think, how in your experience, how prevalent have like drug overdoses been in that way? Like, did you see them at like school often? Did you see
Yeah.
were in your communities?
Um, I mean, I've seen a few drug overdoses from either school, and of course, I've seen them when I've been down to New Orleans. I've seen them in sporadic places, but um, Northwest had a few. I mean, we had a couple kids go to the hospital because they were overdosed on Xanax, Adderall, all kinds of stuff. And, you know, going to school at Northwest for a couple years, a lot of my friends did a lot of hard drugs. And, I mean, stood away from pretty much all of them. And, I mean, a couple of my friends would show up zanned out or they'd show up high off their minds off acid or all kinds of stuff. Of course, marijuana showed up drunk, that's just that was just normal. You didn't say anything about it.
A good showing.
Yeah, like they did it normally. And I thought it was funny. You kind of mentioned that because I saw a video on TikTok of all things of this girl showing up to her school plastered and like falling down and all this and how she had alcohol poisoning and was ambulanced out. But it's like I remember when my friend brought 3 water bottles of vodka to school and like 6 people were just chugging them at lunch and no one knew, and they all drove home like happy hunters after. And it's just normal. And versus where a lot of other schools, if you see someone get high once, oh my god, they're the coolest, they got high, you know
Right.
and it's just normalized in certain areas versus others.
But do you think it's idolized? You just said, "Oh, they're the coolest." Were you referencing like somebody?
um I think certain areas it's idolized. At my school it wasn't really. I mean, yes, freshman year, it was idolized because everyone is new to that. But after freshman year, I think going into sophomore and junior year, you start to succumb to the ideal that it's just for popularity rather than you're kind of just succumbed in it rather, or you're just succumbed in it. And versus other schools where you don't have a lot of that stuff, so when you do, it seems cool. I mean, and here's an example, but it's not with drugs. But at your school when you went to East, everyone talked about that little kid getting in the fight with a girl because she said a racial slur. I mean, that still gets talked about. My girlfriend still talks about that one fight.
That's funny.
And the thing was, I even got in a fight in school, and
Yeah, but
it was just
Donovan, that was like a hilarious fight. Like it was this white girl who was taller than the little scrawny black kid, and he just fucking knocked her shit
but
out, dude.
but
It was wild.
but that was the only fight that really happened at your school, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had Fight Club, and there were a few
But
fights.
that's not like a real fight, like a real school fight. That's
Yeah,
planned. It's outside. So
and
what
we
I'm
only
getting,
had like two, and then it got
yeah,
shut down because
yeah. But like at my school, last year we had almost 40 fights in a year, and one of them had included 30 kids. And there'd be two fights in a week, and you don't even hear about them at that point. Versus if it was at a school like yours, if you had a fight, everyone knows, everyone has it on their phone, and it's talked about. Versus mine, where it's like, okay, there was a fight. Who was it? And that's it. You don't see
Right.
the videos anymore. You just hear, okay, whatever. Or they're missing from class. I'm assuming they got a fight. And that's what it is with like tying it back to like the drugs and stuff. It's not at my school, it's not as much of, wow, you're so cool, you do drugs. It's more of, wow, you're a fucking idiot, you do drugs, you know?
Yeah. Is that? Hmm. That's interesting that that's the perception. It's that almost anti-drug.
Yeah, because when you have more of something, then you get more of the opposition versus if you have less of something, you get more of the position. I mean,
So are you contrarian?
huh?
Are you saying that you're doing it just to match statistics, or what?
I
Is
mean,
this like a pseudo belief?
that's
Like,
basically how it is. I mean, you get succumbed in it and you just do it, but you know you're wrong for it. But
I disagree. I think that there are definitely benefits. Um, what is it? Just I think that basically drugs can be the same as going to a roller coaster. And shit, $10 for 8 hours. It's not a bad deal.
okay, so here's what I understand where you're going at. But a lot of people at your school, and okay, you've probably heard
And
of
I understand that there's a point where you get to like abuse of it. I do think that like recreational drugs should be limited to people who are like not even just like 21, but I think that the hard shit should be legal after 30. Like if you're 30 and you want to shoot heroin, I
but
mean,
then that opens up the market for heroin, and that opens up it getting to younger people.
it also opens it up for regulation.
Yeah, but it's hard to regulate drugs because where are drugs?
What are you talking
I mean,
about? FDA does it all the time.
yeah,
And
not
then you
that
could
hard.
compete. You could compete with what the drug dealers are selling them for with the
Yeah.
prices.
Okay, I understand that, but you're just talking about prescriptions, and where do prescriptions end up now? They end up in hands of kids who are selling them just as much as other drugs. The only issue is
That's
if you
true. I was
legalize
gonna
harder
sell them.
drugs, it's going to be more prevalent and more in the hands of kids.
Yeah.
Because if you can get a hard drug now, it's going to be a lot easier to get a hard drug when it's legalized to an age group or to a
Right.
person. I mean, you can be 18 in Colorado. Yeah, I'll give you an example. So my
But
brother, he lived in Colorado
should
since
these things be explored though? Like, should these, even though that they have these like problems with how it could get to kids, shouldn't these possibilities like it's not that
yeah.
the kids won't abuse them. There,
Here's
there definitely will be a population of children who abuse the drugs because that's how it is for anything. The population exists now, it'll always
okay.
exist, it'll definitely grow. But I feel like a lot of things, like it, at least there should be research done into one legal recreational drug that is meant to take you on an experience. Because to be honest, like if you could just limit the supply of that to specific centers, like how people are suggesting heroin centers open up in cities where there are prevalent opiate addicts, I think that it could be like a new sector that could be explored. That's almost like a bar scene. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, here's my opinion. I believe that there are two drugs and three roughly, more two or less, but I think there's two, maybe three drugs in the US now that could possibly be legalized for recreational use. The main two are marijuana and shrooms. I believe there's really been shown no aspect of shrooms being harmful otherwise than the fact that you may trip, you may have a bad trip. That's about it. Weed, yes, if you're inhaling it, it's bad for your lungs, but still not a lot of bad outcomes. The number one reason why weed isn't regulated or legalized in the state of or in the U.S. is for the fact that you can't street test it. That is what's stopping most people or most states, if not every state, is that you can't street test marijuana and like you can alcohol. But the third thing is maybe acid. I mean, it does have some brain deficiency when you take it, and if you abuse it, you could become pretty stupid. And um, with harder drugs, it's you just can't. I mean, you'll have places that end up like the Middle East where opioid addiction is horrible, and um, it's just not okay.
Right, but what I'm advocating for is less um like a continuance of like the or a proponency of like drugs that are currently available, rather research into new things that could effectively replace and like opiate addiction. Like you could like I don't know. I definitely think that if there was a safer legal alternative to heroin, that you know what? Some people when they take heroin the first time somebody takes an opiate, it's because they need it. If you get rid of the aspect that your body chemically needs it afterwards, if you can find something that replaces it, and we know that you can, you could fucking make THC bombs that are just like pill form. And you could just like do that, and that would be simple fix to like almost to at least like people who smoke weed. Like you don't even have to smoke it. You know, I don't know. I feel that these things should be legal just so that we can do research on them and eventually get to an ultimate
Why
kind of
not
drug.
do research on it when it's illegal versus legal? You can still do so much research on illegal substances, and I guarantee you there's research projects now on illegal
Right, but
substances.
imagine how if it comes out that they've made this wonder drug. I wonder what the reactions would be. What do you think? How do you think? How do you think your parents would react to this
What
wonder drug? Do you think they'd try it? Do you think
what's
like
this wonder drug?
it's it's a pill that has no addictive after effects
But how do they know? How long has this pill been tested?
in a sample size of 100,000 people that were observed for 2 months. Only 5,000 uh, took them more than once a week, which is as prescribed use.
But if you
Like you would use it the same as alcohol.
okay, okay, no, I think a lot of people would still stray away from it because it just like marijuana. Marijuana has been around for a long time. but does everyone smoke marijuana? There are a lot of effects that marijuana has shown to not be existent and that people say, but it doesn't matter. There's still going to be a lot of people who don't do it. Um, the issue with drugs is you don't know long-term effects. There are a lot of long-term effects with drugs. It's just the truth. Like with acid, the short-term effect, you get high. The long-term effect, you are literally losing brain cells, and you have to dose higher every time you use acid. So you're losing more and more brain cells. And I think that's the biggest issue with testing for new drugs is the long-term effects.
Right.
And 2 months just isn't long enough. It has to be 10 years.
Well, that was kind of what vaping is. Vaping's been out, I think, uh, at least since the 2000s, I'm pretty sure.
It's not been that long. It's been like 5 years for I would say globalized or whatever.
All right, so e-cigarettes were actually invented in 1927. They started probably popping about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
but they've been around.
Yeah, they've been
Uh,
around, but
they've been around. And where was I going with this?
the effects.
Oh, it popped up out of nowhere. No FDA regulation, no research. People use it.
Yeah,
Why would this be different?
because it's harder to. I mean, you're looking at a drug versus a nicotine product. People know what nicotine products are. They know how nicotine works and the effects of nicotine, short term and long term. They knew the effects of vaping. They didn't know the effects to an extent. They knew it could cause cancer. Nicotine causes cancer. It's
Does
true.
nicotine cause cancer? I've never actually been clear on that. Is it the
Yes.
nicotine or is it the car? Are there other? I've always thought it's like the tar in cigarettes and the other preservatives.
There's nicotine is also a thing because you can get mouth cancer from the nicotine pouches and
Right.
or gum cancer. It's although it is a safer alternative to go with the pouches and stuff like that.
So,
But
what do you think about like a nicotine product that just gives you a buzz? Like, I know nicotine gum is not designed to, and I've had a kid like fake a buzz in front of me for it for some reason. Such a fucking idiot, such a pussy. It was like, I gave him a piece of gum. He was like, "Oh, bro." He was buzzed. It was like a 4 milligram piece of nicotine gum.
yeah,
I don't know. I just think that like why do you think a product that doesn't like that has like a nicotine lozenge that makes you as buzzed as a cigarette would for how long do you think that that would be enjoyable? How long do you think a nicotine buzz would be enjoyable?
what do you mean by that?
So you take a Xanax, it lasts 4 hours.
Uh huh.
How long would a nicotine pill to be pleasurable? Like 10 minutes, 15, an hour?
Well, I mean, if you're chewing, have you ever chewed tobacco before?
I have not. I've been told by many people that if I ever chewed tobacco, they would never kiss me again. So,
Okay. Well, you're chewing, the buzz lasts as long as your chew is in. That could be up to an hour or 2 hours. Um, Now with the vaping, it lasts like 30 seconds to a minute.
right.
and you're inhaling a lot more because you want the buzz longer.
or
So,
a
I mean,
stronger buzz.
yeah.
So, which do you think that they should come in both forms, where it's like there's a tic tac and you can just like bite into it and it like buzzes you?
Was it a bee going up there? Jeez.
Yeah, like a little tic tac. You could market them nicotine bees, throw them in your fucking mouth, buzzes the shit out of you. 2 seconds, you're back to work, dude. You're
Yeah.
alert now.
I mean, I think they're already trying to do that because they're straying away from, they're trying to get away from vaping.
Are they?
Well,
That you think? Do you think that the tobacco industry is trying to get away from smoking and vaping?
not okay, tobacco industry, no, but they are trying to push out safer alternatives like the what's the brand? Um, I can't think of the brand right now, but they have pouches now that are just nicotine. It's not tobacco. It's not a vape. It's just a pouch that is strictly nicotine, and they're trying to get more of that because it's safer than inhaling it in your lungs and stuff like that.
And having the tobacco in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And stuff like that it's a Zen pouch. That's what it is. But they're trying to do that stuff, and uh, I don't know. There's a lot going on with the vaping aspect, and uh, but here's my thing. I want to pitch in. So you know how all the tobacco went up to the age of 21. Um, do you think that you should still be 21 to buy or drink alcohol?
Uh, it's difficult because the thing about like stimulants and depressants and all these things is that they all have some kind of effect on your brain, and because it's shown that alcohol and marijuana uh like kind of affect your brain in your frontal lobe negatively, right? And so that's your decision making center and it fucks that up. And so since it fucks that up, it's kind of like, well, what am I meant to do?
But that's if you abuse it for the most part.
Right, but
That's
what kid knows how to use alcohol correctly?
any kid in a European country.
You think when they start drinking, I guarantee you that not every experience is using alcohol correctly. I think that there's definitely a
Majority,
fad period,
yeah,
especially
majority.
in both American and European countries, that once you hit 16, it's kind of like, all right, now it's kind of open game. I think for a lot of people.
Okay, but
What is it? I think what is it? They say 7 in 10 high school students admitted to drinking before they were 20, before they graduated. So it's like these teenagers,
but
they are drinking at around the same rate, but
uh,
we have higher rates of alcoholism, I think, than European
you know
countries
why?
do. Yeah, why?
You know why? Is because it's honestly because it is not at 18 here. Um, you in other countries, alcohol is very, very important to cultures. So I don't think you ever knew my friend Raphael, but the one who moved to Spain that I went to see last year. Um, but you know, they when you go there and drink, you drink to enjoy, and that's when you're 16 and 17. You don't drink to get drunk. If you want to get drunk, you do that like once a month there rather than once a week here or every night here. It's very cultural aspect. You go there and you enjoy the beer. You enjoy everything. They don't have that cheap beer there, that everyone just drinks and gets plastered. When you go here, buy a 30 rack of Bush Light, you're drinking that to get drunk. And
Right.
versus if you are taught how to drink and you space yourself, and there's not like this overwhelming weight to turn 21. When you're 18, that's right at your adult stage where it's like, oh, okay. It's not like a super buildup, and you're like, you're 21. All right, let's start pounding. And the overwhelming weight causes people to just once they hit 21 to start drinking more, and that's a big issue because when
So
you go ahead.
it's really interesting you say that. It's so cultural that they drink in Europe. The cultural aspect of drinking in Europe is something that I think that we are missing in American culture. We don't have what we have around alcohol, especially in the media. Um, a lot of abuse of alcohol, a lot of like The Simpsons, popular cartoons, popular shows, uh, take place in bars. Let me think. It's Cheers. Media propones. Media gives this idea that drinking happens in kind of this way where it is addictive and you go into these dark places and you spend time with these people that you probably shouldn't be spending time with, and there's probably better people to be spending time with, and so it's negatively portrayed
Yeah.
in a lot of media. And what is it, I know I wasn't given alcohol growing up, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I actually quit drinking uh in about March.
Why?
um I stopped feeling the need to drink, and when I have drank, because I have broken sobriety, and I did it on purpose on the 4th of July because it was the 4th of July. I wanted to have fun. So we we had some. And but I'll admit, I whenever I drink, I usually drink way too much. Last time I drank until I threw up, um, which I've been told is like right up close to alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
And what is it? So there's that. How do you think? Do you think that a lot of your peers like drink the same way, like right now?
Of
And
course.
do you think you drink differently?
I drink way differently because I try not, and me, I mean, I don't like to get drunk. So I drink slowly and I drink for the taste now. I mean, it also helps that a lot of my coworkers at my work have taught me a lot about beer and stuff like that, and different types of beer that I should try and all that, because they're all adults who love drinking for the flavor. So I've learned to do that rather than drink to get drunk. And it's something that you learn as age goes by, but it's something that we're not taught. And I think one thing that the US is really growing on is breweries. You have pop-up breweries everywhere now. And I think that's great. I think we should emphasize that rather than say drinking is terrible.
All right, I agree. And I think that's we're gonna wrap it up today. Thank you so much, Donovan, for being on the show.
Problem.
Uh, one final thing: are you doing anything fun?
Uh,
Are you gonna be doing anything fun? It could be anything. If you saw the last podcast, my man said he was going to do his girlfriend at some point in the week. Can be that. Doesn't matter what it is.
hey, all I'm saying is Me and my girl are going to Montana in the next month. So
All right. Cool
hey,
beans
we
in
gotta
the
hang out.
mountains.
We gotta hang out soon.